Music has always carried more than rhythm and melody, it carries influence. Throughout history, people have used music to celebrate victories, express sorrow, strengthen unity, and communicate beliefs. Because of this, music does not only entertain the ears, but also shapes the environment of the heart and mind. When individuals repeatedly listen to or sing certain songs, the words and emotions within those songs begin to settle deep within their thinking. Over time, this influence becomes part of how people interpret the world around them. A song filled with hope and strength can lift a weary spirit and encourage perseverance, while a song filled with discouragement or confusion can slowly shape a negative outlook. This is why music must be approached with awareness rather than carelessness. Every lyric carries a message, and every message contributes to the atmosphere a person lives in daily. When a community or generation repeatedly sings the same words, those words begin to shape shared attitudes and expectations. Understanding this principle helps people realize that music is not simply harmless background noise. It is a powerful form of communication that can either build or weaken the inner life. When people recognize the influence of music, they begin to understand the importance of choosing songs wisely. Many songs become popular because of their catchy melodies or energetic beats, but the words behind those melodies often receive little attention. Yet the lyrics are what remain in the memory long after the music fades. Words repeated again and again through song can become internal declarations that shape thought patterns. If those words encourage courage, gratitude, and perseverance, they strengthen the listener. However, if the words repeatedly promote despair, pride, or harmful attitudes, they can slowly influence the listener in the wrong direction. This does not mean that every song must be serious or solemn, but it does mean that people should be thoughtful about what messages they allow to take root in their hearts. Discernment helps individuals enjoy music while still protecting their minds. By paying attention to the messages within songs, people can make wiser choices about what they listen to and sing. In doing so, they create an environment where their thoughts remain clear and their values remain strong, allowing music to become a source of encouragement rather than a subtle source of harmful influence. One of the most powerful forces shaping human thought is repetition. When a message is repeated consistently, it gradually becomes familiar, and familiarity often leads to acceptance. This principle applies strongly to music because songs are designed to be repeated. A chorus may be sung many times within a single song, and listeners may hear the same song dozens of times throughout a week. As those words are repeated, the mind begins to store them deeply in memory. Eventually, people may find themselves singing the lyrics automatically without even thinking about them. At that moment, the message of the song has already entered the subconscious. This is why the content of music matters far more than many people realize. If a song repeatedly expresses negativity, hopelessness, or careless attitudes toward life, those ideas can slowly shape the way a person thinks. On the other hand, when a song communicates strength, gratitude, and hope, its repeated message can encourage the listener to develop a healthier mindset. Repetition gives music its emotional power, but it also gives music its influence over beliefs and attitudes. Because repetition is so influential, the messages embedded in popular songs deserve careful attention. Many people select songs based only on how enjoyable they sound, rarely pausing to examine what the lyrics are actually saying. Yet the human mind absorbs repeated statements almost like declarations. When individuals sing a line over and over, they are in a sense rehearsing that message within their own thoughts. Over time, these rehearsed messages may influence emotions, decisions, and behavior. A person who constantly repeats words of defeat may slowly adopt a discouraged mindset, while someone who frequently sings words of confidence and determination may strengthen their resilience. The difference lies not only in the melody, but in the meaning behind the lyrics. This understanding encourages listeners to practice awareness rather than passive consumption. Music can remain enjoyable while still being chosen thoughtfully. By selecting songs that communicate positive and constructive messages, individuals can allow repetition to work in their favor. Instead of shaping negative thinking, the repeated words can reinforce courage, wisdom, and clarity. In this way, the very power that makes music memorable can also become a tool that strengthens the mind and uplifts the spirit. Every generation is shaped by the messages it repeats, and music has become one of the most powerful tools for spreading those messages. Songs travel quickly through communities, social gatherings, and digital platforms, reaching millions of listeners within a short time. Because of this wide influence, the themes present in popular music can gradually shape the emotional and mental climate of a generation. When a song celebrates resilience, kindness, and responsibility, it encourages listeners to value those qualities. However, when songs repeatedly highlight discouragement, prideful attitudes, or careless living, they can quietly normalize those perspectives. The danger is not always obvious because the message often arrives wrapped in an appealing rhythm or an energetic melody. People sing along because the song feels enjoyable, yet the ideas within the lyrics begin to settle into their thinking. Over time, these ideas can influence how people see themselves, how they treat others, and how they respond to challenges in life. Music, therefore, becomes more than entertainment. It becomes a cultural teacher that shapes attitudes and expectations without formal instruction. Recognizing this influence helps listeners approach music with greater awareness and responsibility. When individuals become aware of how songs influence thinking, they begin to realize the importance of discernment. Discernment means the ability to recognize whether a message strengthens or weakens the character of those who embrace it. Many songs contain messages that appear harmless at first, but repeated listening may gradually shift a person's mindset. A song that constantly expresses hopelessness may encourage listeners to view life through a pessimistic lens, while lyrics that celebrate defiance toward wisdom or discipline can slowly weaken respect for guidance and responsibility. On the other hand, music that highlights perseverance, gratitude, and purpose can inspire listeners to grow stronger in their values. The goal is not to remove joy from music, but to ensure that the joy does not come at the expense of wisdom. A thoughtful listener understands that every song carries a message, and every message influences the heart in some way. By choosing songs that communicate healthy and uplifting ideas, individuals help create a culture where music becomes a force that strengthens character rather than eroding it. In this way, discernment transforms listening from a passive habit into an intentional decision that protects both personal well-being and the moral clarity of the wider community. Guarding the heart and mind has always been an essential principle for anyone who desires a stable and meaningful life. The thoughts that occupy the mind eventually influence attitudes, decisions, and behavior. Because music has such a direct path to the emotions, it becomes one of the most powerful influences on what people allow into their inner world. When a song is heard repeatedly, its message quietly enters the mind and settles within the emotions. This is why being mindful about the songs one listens to is not about restriction, but about protection. Just as people are careful about what they eat to protect their physical health, they must also be careful about what they absorb through their ears to protect their mental and spiritual well-being. Songs that carry messages of hope, gratitude, courage, and discipline strengthen the inner life and help individuals face challenges with resilience. In contrast, music that repeatedly emphasizes confusion, negativity, or destructive attitudes can gradually weaken emotional stability. Guarding the heart means recognizing that influence exists and choosing carefully what is allowed to shape the inner atmosphere of life. When people become intentional about their music choices, they create space for clarity, peace, and strength to grow within them. Choosing uplifting music is one practical way to protect and strengthen the mind. Songs that speak about perseverance, integrity, kindness, and purpose encourage listeners to focus on constructive values. These kinds of messages reinforce positive thinking patterns and remind people of the importance of living with intention. When individuals fill their daily environment with music that promotes hope and gratitude, they gradually build an atmosphere that supports emotional stability and mental clarity. Over time, these positive messages begin to shape how people respond to difficulties and opportunities alike. Instead of being overwhelmed by discouragement, they remember the words that inspire strength and determination. This does not mean that music must always be serious or formal. Joyful and energetic songs can still be uplifting when their messages reflect respect for life and a commitment to positive values. The key is awareness. When listeners remain aware of the messages they are repeating through song, they maintain control over what influences their thinking. In doing so, they transform music from a passive form of entertainment into a meaningful tool that encourages growth, strengthens character, and helps maintain a healthy and hopeful perspective on life. Music has the unique ability to shape the emotional environment in which people live. When individuals listen to songs regularly, those songs begin to form part of the atmosphere that surrounds their daily lives. Just as a physical environment can influence how someone feels and behaves, the emotional environment created by music can also guide attitudes and perspectives. Songs that celebrate perseverance, honesty, gratitude, and responsibility create a sense of encouragement and stability. They remind listeners that life has purpose and that challenges can be faced with strength and wisdom. On the other hand, music that constantly highlights despair, prideful attitudes, or destructive thinking can gradually weaken that sense of purpose. When such messages become common in a person's listening habits, they may slowly influence how the individual responds to difficulties, relationships, and decisions. Because of this powerful effect, music should not be viewed as harmless background noise. It is a steady stream of messages entering the mind and emotions. Recognizing this influence allows individuals to make thoughtful choices about the songs they allow into their environment. By doing so, they protect their mental clarity and maintain an atmosphere that supports healthy attitudes and responsible living. Music that strengthens faith, hope, discipline, and moral clarity plays an important role in building strong character. Songs with meaningful and uplifting messages remind listeners of values that guide them toward constructive decisions. For example, music that speaks about perseverance can motivate someone to continue working through difficult moments rather than giving up. Songs that highlight gratitude can help individuals remain thankful even when life feels challenging. In the same way, lyrics that encourage discipline and integrity reinforce the importance of living with responsibility and respect for others. Over time, these messages become part of a person's thinking, shaping how they view themselves and their role in the world. This is why choosing music carefully is not about limiting enjoyment, but about strengthening the inner life. People naturally absorb the ideas they hear most often, and music provides a powerful way for those ideas to enter the mind. When listeners choose songs that reflect wisdom and hope, they are filling their environment with reminders that guide them toward a better path. As a result, music becomes more than entertainment. It becomes a supportive voice that encourages positive values, steady character, and a clear sense of purpose in everyday life. What people sing repeatedly often becomes a declaration that echoes within their thoughts. Singing is not only a form of expression, it is also a way of reinforcing ideas in the mind. When a person sings certain words again and again, those words gradually settle into memory and begin to influence how the individual thinks about life. This is why songs can be so powerful. A melody may fade after a moment, but the words can remain in the mind for years. Many people find themselves remembering songs from childhood or earlier seasons of life, sometimes without even trying. The reason is simple: repetition and emotion make music memorable. Because of this, the lyrics people choose to sing can become personal statements about how they view themselves and the world around them. If someone constantly repeats words of defeat or hopelessness, those declarations may slowly shape a discouraged outlook. In contrast, singing words that reflect hope, courage, and determination can strengthen a person's confidence and outlook on life. Understanding this principle encourages individuals to pay attention to what they repeatedly sing. Each lyric becomes a small declaration that influences the direction of thought and attitude over time. When people recognize that songs function like declarations, they begin to approach music with greater intention. Every time a song is sung, its message is reaffirmed. This is why many motivational environments use music or chants that repeat strong and encouraging statements. The repeated words build confidence and unity among those who sing them. In the same way, everyday listeners can benefit from choosing songs that reinforce healthy and constructive messages. Singing about perseverance, gratitude, and purpose helps train the mind to focus on those values. Over time, these repeated declarations strengthen emotional resilience and provide encouragement during difficult moments. On the other hand, repeating lyrics that promote discouragement or careless attitudes may gradually influence the listener in unhelpful ways. The words people sing shape the conversations they have with themselves when no one else is around. By selecting songs with thoughtful and positive messages, individuals ensure that those internal conversations remain encouraging and constructive. In this way, music becomes more than entertainment. It becomes a tool that reinforces meaningful declarations about life, guiding the mind toward clarity, strength, and a hopeful perspective on the future. Discernment is the ability to recognize the deeper message behind what appears on the surface. In the world of music, this ability is especially important because songs often present their messages through attractive melodies and engaging rhythms. A song may sound enjoyable and energetic, yet the ideas expressed in its lyrics may quietly influence how listeners think about life, responsibility, and relationships. Without discernment, people may accept and repeat messages simply because they are popular or widely shared. Popularity, however, does not always mean that a message is healthy or beneficial. When listeners develop discernment, they begin to listen more carefully. They pay attention not only to how a song sounds, but also to what it is actually saying. This awareness helps them recognize when a piece of entertainment may be encouraging attitudes that weaken discipline, respect, or hope. Discernment does not remove the enjoyment of music. Instead, it adds wisdom to the experience. It allows individuals to appreciate creativity while still protecting their minds from ideas that could slowly influence them in harmful ways. By practicing discernment, listeners become active participants in shaping their own mental and emotional environment rather than passively absorbing every message that music presents. Recognizing harmful messages in entertainment requires patience and thoughtful reflection. Many songs contain lines that may seem harmless at first glance, but carry subtle ideas that influence attitudes over time. For example, lyrics that repeatedly express hopelessness can slowly shape a mindset that expects failure instead of growth. Similarly, songs that glorify reckless behavior may normalize actions that undermine responsibility and good judgment. When these messages are repeated frequently through popular music, they can gradually become accepted as normal or even desirable. Discernment helps people pause and evaluate whether the messages they are hearing align with the values they want to live by. Instead of allowing entertainment to define their perspectives, thoughtful listeners examine the meaning behind the lyrics and make intentional choices. This process encourages a deeper level of awareness about the influence of media in everyday life. When individuals choose music that supports healthy attitudes and meaningful values, they contribute to a more positive cultural environment. Their choices reinforce messages that encourage responsibility, perseverance, and hope. In this way, discernment becomes a powerful tool that allows people to enjoy music while still protecting the clarity of their thoughts and the strength of their character. The songs people choose to sing and listen to have a powerful role in shaping the atmosphere around them. Music fills homes, gatherings, and daily routines, creating a background that influences emotions and thoughts. When individuals intentionally choose songs that honor truth, purpose, and righteousness, they are not only selecting entertainment, but also shaping the environment in which their minds develop. Words carried through music have the ability to uplift or discourage, strengthen or weaken, guide or confuse. Because music is often repeated throughout the day, its messages gradually become part of the emotional climate of a person's life. When that climate is filled with hopeful and constructive words, it encourages a mindset that looks forward with confidence and determination. In contrast, when the atmosphere is filled with songs that promote negativity or careless attitudes, the emotional environment can slowly shift toward discouragement and uncertainty. Recognizing this influence helps people understand that music contributes to the tone of everyday life. By choosing songs that reflect positive values, individuals help create an atmosphere where peace, clarity, and encouragement can grow naturally. Creating a healthy atmosphere through music also affects the people around us. Families, friends, and communities often share the same musical environment, and the songs that are played frequently can influence the collective mood of a group. When music with uplifting messages becomes part of daily life, it encourages conversations and attitudes that reflect gratitude, perseverance, and hope. These messages reinforce a sense of direction and remind listeners of the importance of living with integrity and purpose. Over time, the environment shaped by positive music can strengthen relationships and inspire individuals to pursue meaningful goals. The opposite can also be true when negative or harmful messages dominate the musical environment. Repeated exposure to discouraging lyrics can affect motivation and influence how people see their future. For this reason, choosing music thoughtfully becomes an act of responsibility toward oneself and toward others. It allows individuals to contribute to an atmosphere that supports growth and stability. When songs celebrate truth, dignity, and constructive values, they become more than simple melodies. They become voices that encourage people to rise above confusion and move forward with confidence, clarity, and a renewed sense of purpose in their daily lives.